Sir, I am making you a co-host.
Okay,
I'll be
perfect.
the host, okay,
Perfectly
for
fine.
today only.
Perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. Not an issue at all. As long as I can share my PPT.
Yes, yes, you can.
Okay. Let me go through the process of just a sec. Okay. Guys, can you see my presentation and hear my voice?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. So
Yes, sir.
we were talking about in fact I had already started when I got to know the link was not working and so on. So we were talking about diasporic media and media understand is the plural of medium. Media has three predominant functions in human society. One is inform and educate. The second is entertain. And third is to connect. Three predominant features media does. And the rest are all subsidiary features, for example, making a public opinion, so on and so forth. But three predominant features inform slash educate, connect, and third, entertain. How media plays out, especially for diasporas. So, human beings function on two concepts. One is called memory, and one is called imagination. Think about the fact that you have been born and brought up in a particular place, and all your activities or events which have happened in that particular place is a part of your memory. Now think about the fact that you have moved from that place and gone and you are living somewhere else. Now every time you see something about that place that you were born and brought up in, with with the help of media, it brings back old memories. There is a connection which happens. You tend to remember all those things that have happened. The second aspect is there are places or things that you have not done. That is where your mind works up an imagination. So you look at an advertisement, you imagine things. So for example, if you see an advertisement for a vehicle or for a food or for a restaurant or for a country, now that's where your imagination comes. And that also is the role of media, especially today with an internet 24 by 7, 365 days media. You imagine things. So for example, a lot of people who their understanding of, let's say, the Gulf or the let's say America is based out of an imagination which might have come from, let's say, Hollywood movies or from media which could be oral or which could be, you could have seen a YouTube video, etc., etc. That's what the role of media is. Okay. Shreya is asking for my mail ID. Shreya, I will again share my mail ID. Uh, and this is my number. I am not on WhatsApp. I am on Signal and Telegram. That's my mail and that's my number. So you can connect with me. And a good, I keep repeating this, a good idea is to talk among yourselves. You have today a peer-to-peer messaging app, WhatsApp or whatever app you are on, you can, and these are good networks which, can be taken advantage of. So that's about media and historical examples. Gandhi brought up this Indian opinion to educate European community on the plight of Indian indentured labor. Bengal Gazette cater to the needs of British settlers. Yeah, Gazette, for example, used to bring out news in terms of the ship movement, the kind of goods it has, information needs. And remember, information needs is not a new concept in a human society. Information needs were always so. Before the rise of the modern mass media, smoke signal, drum beats were a source of information in terms of enemy or in terms of taking a fight to the enemy or whatever. So let's define diasporic media: produced by and for migrants. More often than not, what we studied in terms of cinema, for example, we looked at the fact that cinema is being produced by Indian filmmakers, which caters to the diaspora, but it will not be classified as a diasporic media because the Indian filmmakers are imagining what the diaspora would be going through. It's not actually a lived experience. So an Indian filmmaker like Karan Johar can never know what diaspora is or what are the trials and tribulations of a diaspora. So this diasporic media is by and for migrants and deals with this issue of which are specifically interest for the diasporic community. Platform for self-expression, representation of cultural artifacts, and contestation of negative stereotypes by migrant people in public sphere. Media becomes a two-way street. Media initially, with the old media, the traditional media, which was the newspaper, radio, and TV, was a one-way street where only the editor or the media house would curate news or content and push it out. Today, with internet and social media, it is a two-way street. Functions of diasporic media: production of culturally relevant and local vital information to immigrants in host society, orientation and connectivity roles. Okay. Open space for self-reflective discourse among migrants. For example, a second generation migrant would always have this, angst or this identity crisis. So, for example, a second generation Indian, let's say in an American society, would try and balance between the Indianness, which the parents would be imposing, and the Americanness, which the migrant would be feeling. Now, that person is not a migrant, it would be a citizen of America. But the fact is, there is this clash of cultures. Am I Indian? Am I an American? At home, it's Indian. Outside, it's American. Look at the identity crisis this person goes through. So, it's an open space for self reflective discourse, reinforce identities and a sense of belonging. The recreation of alternative imaginative spaces alongside existing mapping. So look at so you're dealing with two cultures, and now how are you supposed to negotiate this? So we have seen, in fact, in literature, in cinema, we've seen the fact the second generation or the subsequent generation have broken out from that mold of that longing back home, and they are exploring with new, topics. Contribution to the ethnic diversity of a multi-ethnic public sphere. This becomes a important place. A set of networks which fulfills the information needs of diaspora, media for information, socialization, and culturation, facilitates the diaspora in assimilation, syncretism, and negotiation. And human beings like validation. We tend to validate each other. So if I'm doing something and, in the media, I see somebody else having a similar thought or doing a similar thing, it validates my identity. It validates my existence. We remember, human beings are social animals. We need validation from each other. So that's where the media comes in. Proliferated in the past 2 decades, advances in information technology, awareness about policymakers in developed worlds to connect not just to mainstream but to ethnic media. And think about the fact now, with a multicultural society across the world, diasporic media becomes important because, let's say, in a host country, people want to pass on a message. The mainstream media will never cater to all segments of society. So, for example, today, if I was to look at a diverse society like India, the mainstream media is never able to put out the messages which is important to individual sections of the society. And that is why the internet and social media becomes an important tool for this diverse, marginalized, or other societies, because they also want to bring out their problems or their issues. Psychological and emotional needs to communicate is stronger among the diaspora because of their strong sense of belonging and identity affirmation with their home country. But this psychological and emotional need is there in all people. That's the reason why you see on social media sometimes people are putting out so personal stuff. Now, anybody getting married, uh, why would that be an interest to majority of the people? But the point is the psychological and emotional need of a newborn, of an event, is wanting to share with the public. Although human migration has been an ongoing process, it was the empirical diaspora who shared a direct with the diasporic media. Bengal Gazette we gave an example of, where the imperial diaspora shared a direct link with the diasporic media. Migrants initially used to narrate their experiences and communicate with fellow immigrants. It was the books. For example, Theodore, a Jewish Australian Hungarian journalist, book, The Jewish State became the driving force behind the Zionist movement. That is how the evolution of media has happened. In fact, in every stage of human evolution and human civilization, the media has also evolved. So it was the books, then it was the radio, then it was the TV, and now it's the internet. A number of books on Black diaspora were instrumental in strengthening the movement for the abolition of slavery. A lot of people do not consider books or literature as media. They are also media. Remember, it's a medium for information and connection and entertainment. And irrespective of the fact that a lot of people come out with the fact that, oh, the newspaper is dead or the print media is dead, that's not the case. All mediums are evolving. All mediums are mediums for information, education, connection, and entertainment. Inevitably, mainstream media does not cover all issues related to diaspora unless these issues are of social and political relevance. Remember, the way media functions or the political economy of media works in the fact that today, if you look at Indian news channels, and sometimes you wonder why are they doing that way, is because of the fact, remember, news works out of advertisement works out of TRPs. That is why there is the sports on trying to manipulate TRP or bringing out information which is something which will be applicable to all. To meet information needs of the community, diasporic groups started their own newspapers and magazines, which are generally subscribed by members of the community. So these are very focused. Tendency to regain ethnic media as speaking for the diaspora. In fact, more often than not, the messages do not go there. And more often than not, the diaspora, in trying to get their message, keeps surveilling the mainstream media. Revolves around monitoring the mainstream media for breaking news. The diasporic content is only carried by the mainstream media only when it works in terms of the political economy. If there is an economic or a social, political, or economic sense in carrying that news item. That's why a lot of times people feel, why is this particular news item, which I think is important, is not carried by the media? Is because anyway, the mainstream media or the traditional media works on gatekeeping, whereby the editors or the media house decide what is to be carried and what is not to be carried. And that is why social media has today become the go-to media for everyone who wants to bring out an issue. For example, Indian indentured laborers in Fiji started their own newspaper, Fiji Samachar, in 24, while a lingual monthly newspaper made weekly subsequently. Now, if you read your self-learning module, there are two case studies. There is a case study of Indian sociologists and the case study of Vande Mataram. You can look at it. I just brought it up. Again, as I was saying, in case you have not received the SLM from IGNU, remember these SLM are available on eGyan Kosh. You can download the SLMs. There might be some version mismatch, but more often than not, it is what it is. history of diasporic media. It was the Jews diaspora which were quick in seizing the print media opportunity. In fact, remember we for people who have joined new, uh, the classical case of definition of diaspora always looked at Jews uh, to give a definition of classic diaspora. In fact, Jews, almost hegemonized the whole discourse on diaspora, and then subsequently in the 90s onwards, scholars figured out that there were more types of diasporas which were there, and that's how the classification of diasporas happened. Jews also, for example, we are seeing, were quick to realize the print media opportunities. Hayom, a daily newspaper in Hebrew language, launched in Russia. This is 1886. In response to growing sense of nationalism among the Jews in Tsarist Russia, anti-Semitism was growing. Remember, anti-Semitism in Europe had been growing for a very long time. In fact, the first crusade, which happened in 11th century, which was supposed to be against the non-believers in Europe, there were a lot of killings of Jews because, in fact, you should go to Wikipedia and read about the first crusade. It was quite an eye-opener. Evolution of diasporic migrants briefly depended on writing letters and sending photographs. Remember, the technology of media or the media technology itself evolved over a period of time. So, for example, the indentured labor from India, which went to various places, there was no hope of coming back and no hope of connection with the homeland. The post would take a long time, involved costs, getting lost, or being confiscated. Satellite TV and radio had a special role in creating diasporic communities. In fact, there's a whole case study on ZTV and the British diaspora. Audio recording and cassettes have been very useful. So, and most of the younger people today would have no understanding or will wonder how audio, in terms of recording in cassettes, were a useful media. But the fact is, in the 80s, in India, the 80s onwards, the news, which actually was started by Pranav Roy and his channel, there was a 1 hour news weekly report, which was a non-governmental, news module, and everybody used to switch it on. In fact, in the 80s, when Doordarshan started beaming after the Asian Games in 82, the source of entertainment was once a weekly a song program called Chitrahar. I still remember. So that's how you keep in touch. Video and cinema were established by diaspora communities. For example, Bollywood has been a mainstay for diaspora communities to connect back to the home country. In the era of internet, phone booth queuing, there's no phone booth queuing, there's no video rental stores, satellite dishes long gone. Now we have Wi-Fi, smartphones, and streaming. Digital media makes physical distances shrink, and that is what has changed drastically. Today, you are 24/7 connected with home as a diaspora. So the whole concept of longing, changes because you are almost at home with this connection. You can do FaceTime, you can do video calls, you can talk on a continuous basis. The internet is not a media, and what is internet has done, it is not a one-way channel. It's a two-way channel, reinforcing senses of national and local identity and augmenting and giving a platform to the global interaction. And that is what has changed over the last decade or so with the coming of internet. All nations across the world realized the fact that the diasporas who had gone and who were earlier thought as traitors or people who have left their motherlands today are an extended citizen or an extended family of that particular nation. Now they are virtually connected, the coexistence of virtual, and now this people are not just online, offline and online are almost merged. Places different accents and poses, different problem. And so the coexistence of virtual and embodied selves create new possibilities for reinterpreting migration. Migration itself. So you are going and yet you are connected back. So how are you migrating? So if you look at, if I'm living in a city and I'm going out for work, if I'm going out for work in the same city or in a different city or in a different country, how does it make a difference? Because I'm always connected. It's not merely a territorial dislocation, but as being a part of a imaginaries on the move, is what Appadurai writes. Uh, Shreya, why don't you just write me a message? We can talk there. So, so look at the fact that the way diasporas were looked at, there were three lenses diasporas were looked at in terms of lens of race, lens of migration, or the lens of politically marginalized or powerless. More often than not, scholars would consider diasporas as marginalized or powerless. In fact, again, for people who have joined new in the earlier units, we were talking about how Indians tried to project themselves as a model, migrant or a model diasporic community. These were the three lenses through which it was. So inevitably, it was always known the fact that you are in a host country, that is not your home, you are marginalized, you are powerless. But with diasporic media, and today, if you've seen the way Indians in, let's say, America have reasserted their identity, they are not, they are equally proud of their Indianness as they are proud of their Americanness. And today there is something called uh, a non-traditional classification, which is called knowledge diasporas. Appropriation of media by diasporic groups be examined from the lens of knowledge diaspora, that is, who are not forced abroad by armies of persecution. So they are no longer, they have their issues. They are definitely, a minority group among a different culture, but they are not marginalized in that particular way because they use media. Rather, they are pushed into exile because of the absence of high technology. And in fact, a lot of people, not just in India, but in other places, are pushed into exile because of the absence of high technology environment at home, deprives them of substantial effort. So, for example, a lot of internet companies have now shifted into the Gulf. Dubai becomes a place. Indian companies are going there because the kind of environment, for example, today, you do not have to look at the technology environment only in terms of a broadband, but you have to also look at the political or the tax or the economic in terms of tax environment, and all these things have converged. The modern media has made a lot of things converged into each other. You cannot look at media only from the sense of a medium, but you have to look at it also from in terms of regulation. You have to look at it in terms of tax. You have to look at the political climate. You have to look at how the businesses move. And that's how the knowledge diasporas have come about. That the diasporic condition has become much more complex and diverse, with some groups still living on the margin, but with most being in a position of insider outsider. So today, a boy or a girl in rural Bundelkhand, which is quite a backward area, can create a video which can go viral, which can lead to politician or a government agency in Delhi to take note. So, for example, you see all these train passengers making videos of trains, which has led the government to add coaches to trains which they had withdrawn earlier. However, diasporic groups use their media not as a result of political conscience or belonging to a certain community, but more in relation to a broader field of practice, information, entertainment, engagement, commerce, and faith. Which I keep saying the predominant role of media inform, educate, connect, and entertain. But now you can add things like commerce and faith. So I come across people in my local park who are taking an evening stroll and listening to faith-based music. Or I'm seeing people in the park doing their evening walk, looking at commerce, the share market, or talking shares. Uh, Digital, now there is the notion of digital diaspora, interconnected world. Now people are moving for work. There are countries which are offering digital diaspora visas where people can remain there for a long time, work and move out, in which online and offline activities are accounted for differently. Digital connectivity has transformed privileged terms of spatiality, belonging, and self-determination. And this continuous movement back and forth, the transnational understanding or the transnational identity, no longer are people just confined to a geographical boundary. They are moving based on what is advantageous to them. So new possible cartographies to map the self in relation to increasing complex pattern of globalization and localization, avoiding closures and negative effect of identity prosody. People are moving. And in fact, in the earlier units, we were talking about how possibly the role of the state is diminishing. A lot of scholars felt that the role of state is diminishing, though the state still has a major role. Remember, the only way you can move is when one state gives you a visa, which obviously is a state control. So obviously, state role has not decreased. It allows different script to be envisaged for the politics of emotion that is essential to understanding of the motives, nature, and impact of migrant experience. Previously, that migration used to be a big deal. You had to plan, you had to do various activities, talk to your peer group. Today the youngsters are able to move on the fly, and they are negotiating multiple belongings. In fact, we have seen the Serum Institute, which created the Covaxin virus. The person stays in London, he's an Indian. The Ambanis have recently purchased a house in London. So, today all people are multinational in a particular way. Terms such as beach diasporas refer to communities that become diaspora without crossing international borders, such as Russian speakers living in post-Soviet republics after collapse of Soviet Union. These are Turks who never left Turkey, but they are Greek citizens following formation of new and political movements affect. Now, how do you categorize under which diasporas you are categorizing? So scholars are coming up with these new terms. And today, the internet and social media allows them to connect with other similar people. Oppressed, minority, endangered groups, often organized in diaspora, use internet to keep up with homeland. Etrians living in exile, active online, slaves, forming first online nations, cyber Yugoslavia. So all these now you do not need to physically move. Virtually, you can connect, you can make connections, you can create networks, keep the hope alive. For example, Tibetans actively, lobby on the virtual medium for a free Tibet. That through their digitally network activities, Iranians and Turkish Kurdish migrants in Netherlands reinforce their geographical identity rather than become more detailed. So there are two kinds of movements which is happening: deterritorialization as well as reinforcing geographical identities. Study how internet has a potential to help maintain a Basque identity abroad by reconnecting individuals with their identity with the larger global Basque communities. This back and forth movement, and remember, internet is a two-way street. Let me move on to some examples. New forms of digital secularization, and this creates a problem for the political system, because the political entities look at all these things through a security lens. Digital systems are used in terms of surveillance and controls, and the migrants are always looked at by with a little suspicion. They are monitored through database biometrics. So the state is trying to reclaim what it is losing in terms of this new digital media. Does not eliminate power relations in the name of democratization of information and access to technology. It impacts in unequal ways on more disenfranchised and vulnerable communities. So it is not that the internet has come and everybody will get a free speech, everybody will move. So the state will move in to do various things to try and control. So diasporas and media impact. Diasporas are increasingly important for the dynamics of the state and economic flow of remittances. Diaspora communities can easily partake. Look at the fact that today Indian diaspora has the largest remittance. It's the largest diaspora and has the largest remittance. And in states like Kerala, Punjab, there is an unequal impact. And that is the reason why these particular two states, or for example, today Gujarat or Telangana, the diaspora is able to move the mainstream media to cover diaspora news. So today, anything happens, let's say in Canada or US with respect to Punjabis, immediately the Punjab media is carrying, and so is the Kerala media. On long distance nationalism, meaning in part the conservative influence that national parties can have on the diasporic citizens. Relevance of home country media, again, as I said, today with remittances, with the political economy, these people have started playing an important role on the home media. Indian states like Kerala, Punjab, and Gujarat have large number of overseas system. Mainstream media promptly and prominently covers the news. There's a direct relationship between remittance and diaspora media in the home country. Fluctuation in the fate of its diaspora may adversely affect the remittance, a fact that was made evident during the Gulf crisis. H1B1 visa directly impinged Indian IT sector, found daily coverage and continues to do so. Establishing a positive and progressive identity of the ethnic group, any negative perception of the community may mar its prospect. And this continues. In fact, I wanted to show you. Let me show you this example. This is a story which came in rest of the world. It's an online news site. How China's hottest social media app turned Düsseldorf into a foodie destination. That's how the media, works with diaspora groups. So what typically happens is this Chinese app called Xiong I don't know how to pronounce it, but this particular app started talking about Düsseldorf, where there were some Chinese who had opened, ethnic Chinese food, which led to Chinese from across Europe to come to Düsseldorf for authentic Chinese food. Inspired a wave of travel by Chinese diaspora in Europe to unexpected destination like Düsseldorf in Germany in the quest to find Chinese comfort food and regional specialities. So we have food bloggers who are able to tell about a specific food of a specific state or a country, and everybody who receives that media message is able to act on it. In Europe has become central to the lives of students and young professionals in Chinese diaspora. With its trove of reliable crowdsourced information on everything from visa procedures to home decorations to regional travel, app functions like a search engine for daily practices. So, for example, there are specific media now with digital media, specific media is catered to, to cater to specific diasporas. So 70s. So this is the whole, case study which I picked up. This is not a part of your SLM, in fact. So you can check out on Google. You can give this information on Chinese food in Düsseldorf. Some restaurants have tried to appeal to Chinese internet users, preferred visual sensitivities. So these are various things on Chinese. Let's quickly sum up. Role of media and diasporic trade, negotiate between various identities in host and home countries. From pamphlets to newspapers to books to satellites to social media, change in diasporic definition and how engagement with media happens. New categories like Ye diaspora and Beach diasporas, globalized and hyperlocal media are now available. So today, for example, this hyperlocal media can actually give information on specific, let's say, a village or a town in a particular place or a particular community or a specific particular ethnic identity. And there is this book, Media on the Move, Global Flow and Contraflow by Daya Kishan Thasu, talks about various aspects of how media are used by various diasporic groups. Its PDF is available online. And there are some other references, diasporas in the new media age, identity, politics and communities, diaspora's identity and media, and Kareem KH, the media of diaspora, London outreach. Okay. I think I have just finished in time. Yes. Any questions? We can quickly take a questions or two. I'm sorry I hurried up. We had a technical glitch during the presentation. So if you look at it from your own states or from your own communities, you will find that there are specific diaspora medias. If you do a Google search and see what are the diasporic medias, for example, in Canada, it was a very interesting thing. But during 2022 state elections, I actually watched the result of Punjab on a Canadian media outlet, Prime TV, I think if it's called. And they were much more unbiased and matter-of-factly reporting.
Sir, even radio is very important and very popular among the Punjabi diaspora in Canada.
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, Canada has the highest Sikh population outside India.
Sure. So they can communicate both ways, sir. That's a very interesting part. The
Yes,
person who is traveling in a vehicle, he can interact with the speaker also.
So you are absolutely right. Now with internet and the evolution of radio, TV, and print onto internet, it has become a two-way street. So even radio today being, can be communicated from anywhere. Listeners can log in and, put on their word, and the messages can flow back and forth.
Thank you, sir.
I think we're already out of time, so I will close.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Yes, I'm Domingos.
Yes, Domingos.
Yes, I'm from Mozambique, and I'm living in India 3 years now.
Okay.
Yes, I want to add that really the Bollywood films are making very, very good job in my country.
Okay.
And sometimes the Indian High Commission in Mozambique, they promote 1 week of Bollywood films.
Okay.
And this kind of work of Indian High Commission there, it is given to approximate the diaspora people there, and they know how the Indian films are doing, and transmitting also the culture from the Indian.
Okay.
Yes, and about the restaurant also, I know the one famous restaurant in Mozambique, they call the Galaxy Restaurant. And this restaurant is only for Indian food. And the people, yes, from India living there, and Mozambican also people, they're going to this restaurant to enjoy this food from India.
Okay.
And yeah, I know that this kind of things, as restaurants, big festival like Holi, they promote also in Mozambique, because we have now around maybe 50,000 people living in Mozambique from India, and
Okay.
yeah, so we
Okay.
have very big and large community of the Hindus from India.
Okay. And
Yeah,
Domingos, what are you doing in India?
I'm working at the embassy.
Okay. Okay.
Yes,
So
yes.
Domingos is from Mozambique and is working with the embassy. So in case anybody would like to travel to Mozambique, Domingos will be the person, go-to person.
Yes, I'm working to visa section. I am employed for immigration. I'm coming from immigration from Mozambique from here. That's
Wonderful.
why this course is very important to me. I want to know many things about my work and improve myself.
Good to know that you are here in this class, and this is the first time we are talking. Good, great, Domingos. And as I told everybody, whoever wants to go to Mozambique, Domingos would be the go-to person.
Yes, yes.
Thank you, Domingos, for
Thank,
sharing this.
thank you.
Shreya, hypermedia is something like a hypertext. What is a hypertext? There are all links you can go back and forth. In fact, the definition, if you just Google it, it's a non-linear medium of information that includes graphics, audio, video, plain text, and hyperlinks. Shreya? So it's
Yes, sir. I'm listening, sir.
so it's like today on internet there is what is called a hypertext. When you are writing a text, these are all links. So now what you can do is, while you are reading a particular text, you can go back and forth and get more information. Shreya?
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. And okay, sir. And I also opened up the book and I found it. Okay. Okay, sir.
Okay,
Okay.
great. Okay, great. So let's call it a day. We have already exceeded our time. I'll see you next Saturday at 3 o'clock. We will be starting the next unit, which is MDI 005, which is the socio-political. I think it's a socio-political aspects of diaspora and migration. We will look at policies. We will look at various socio-political aspects. So we'll start on this MDI 005 unit. As I keep saying, if you have not received your SLM, you can download it. It is on eGyan Kosh. You have a wonderful weekend and a wonderful weekend. See you next Saturday at 3 o'clock. Bye, guys.